What if the most powerful person in the world was a complete fake? I'm not talking about just lying. I mean a literal imposter who stole someone's entire life. This guy didn't just steal a crown, he stole an entire identity. This isn't a movie plot. This actually happened. This is the biggest scam in history. A lie so massive, it took over one of the largest empires on Earth. In the 6th century BC, the massive Persian Empire was hit with a conspiracy so crazy you won't believe it's real. After the real heir to the throne was secretly murdered by his paranoid brother, this random priest, a guy who looked exactly like the dead prince, launched the craziest con ever. He literally became the dead prince, tricked everyone, and stole an entire empire. But his perfect crime started to fall apart when a few suspicious nobles, guys who knew the real prince forever, started asking questions. Their insane plan to expose the impostor came down to a crazy whispered command to a queen in the middle of the night. Find out if the king has ears. How are you, dear friends? I am Czar. We uncover the truth from our history. If you are passionate about it, have a look at our series of French, Byzantine, and Persian Empire in the playlist. We love your support to improve our service by subscribing, sharing, liking, and especially commenting to keep us going and serve you better. Dear fellows, a famous story called The Lion and the Lamb in Bardiya's life, let us break it down. We're starting in 525 BC. The Persian Achaemenid Empire is the biggest, richest, and most powerful empire in the world. It's insane. At the top is King Cambyses II, son of the legendary Cyrus the Great. But this guy has a serious problem. He's totally obsessed with being as great as his dad. Where Cyrus built the empire, Cambyses is a conqueror, always needing to prove himself. And he wants to conquer the oldest and richest place in the world, Egypt. Cambyses was a beast, super ambitious, but also completely unstable. He was eaten alive by paranoia, constantly scared of rivals. And to him, the biggest threat was his own brother, Bardiya. If Cambyses was a lion, everyone saw Bardiya as the lamb. Bardiya, who the Greeks called Smerdis, was popular, charming, and a total beast physically. The historian Herodotus tells a story about an Ethiopian king sending an impossible bow to Cambyses as a challenge. Out of all the Persian warriors, only one man could draw it, Bardiya. For a king like Cambyses, who was already super insecure, this wasn't cool. It was a threat. Every time people cheered for Bardiya, Cambyses got more paranoid. His jealousy was turning into something nasty. While he was getting ready for his huge invasion of Egypt, which would take him thousands of miles away for years, this suspicion became an obsession. He couldn't leave someone so popular and so kingly behind. What if everyone decided they liked the brother who was there more than the king who was gone? That fear made Cambyses do something unbelievable. Before leaving for Egypt, he gave a secret, terrifying order to his most trusted guy, Prexaspes. The mission was simple: find Bardiya and kill him. The murder had to be totally secret. Nobody could ever know. The assassination was done perfectly. One story says Prexaspes killed Bardiya while they were hunting. Another, even crazier story, says he was drowned in the sea. Either way, the king's brother was gone. A state secret only a few people knew. Cambyses, feeling better for a second, marched his army to Egypt, thinking his throne was safe. He had no idea he just created a massive power vacuum, opening the door for a scam bigger than any rebellion he could ever imagine. He had silenced the lamb but he'd left the door to the fold wide open for a wolf. Dear fellows, as explained in the last episode, Cambyses was in Egypt, and a new problem arose: the rise of the Ghost King. Let me explain it to you again. Way out in the eastern provinces lived a priest from a group called the Magi. His name was Gaumata. We don't know a lot about him, but we know two huge things. First, he hated the current king's family. Second, and this is the crazy part, he looked exactly like the now-dead prince, Bardiya. I mean, they were literal twins. This is a 1 in a billion chance. And he and his brother, a top official at the palace, knew the king's biggest secret. The real Bardiya was dead. As news of Cambyses' wins in Egypt came back, Gaumata's brother saw a massive opportunity. The king was miles away. The real heir was dead. And the people were sick of Cambyses' harsh rule. Their plan was both simple and completely insane. Gaumata would just pretend to be Bardiya. He'd pop up, claim the throne, and steal the entire empire from the real king. In March of 522 BC, the ghost showed up. Gaumata, calling himself Bardiya, son of Cyrus, declared himself the new king of kings. The news went viral. To regular people, it made total sense. Their favorite prince was back to take the throne from his awful absent brother. And it worked. The scam was a huge success, immediately. An ancient source says the whole people, Persians, Medes, and all the other nations, ditched Cambyses and ran to support the man they thought was Bardiya. This new king was the opposite of Cambyses. He was for the people. His first move was genius. He gave everyone in the entire empire a 3-year break from taxes and military service. Literally everyone. It was the most popular thing he could have done. Overnight, he became a hero. He lifted a huge burden off of millions of people. For 7 months, this random guy ruled the biggest empire on earth. 7 months! But pretending to be a ghost is tough. Gaumata was trapped, constantly terrified of being exposed. He had to be Bardiya 24/7, but he couldn't be seen too much. He hid away in the palace and almost never went out in public. His #1 rule: nobody who knew the real Bardiya well was allowed to see him. All the old nobles and the prince's friends were kept away. He said it was for security, but really, he was trying to hide the truth. Meanwhile, in Syria, Cambyses heard the news. His brother, the one he had killed, had stolen his throne. He called in Prexaspes, the assassin, who swore he did the job. That's when Cambyses realized the insane, brilliant truth. It wasn't his brother's ghost. It was an impostor. He got his army ready to march back to Persia. But in a crazy accident, as he was getting on his horse, his own sword slipped and stabbed him in the leg. Herodotus says it was the same spot where he had stabbed a sacred bull in Egypt. The wound got infected, and the king of Egypt knew he was dying. With his last breaths, Cambyses told his nobles everything. He had murdered Bardiya, and the guy on the throne was a total fraud. But it was too late. His nobles didn't believe him at all. They thought he was just crazy and lying to make his popular brother look bad one last time. Cambyses II died, and everyone thought he was just a raving madman. The impostor was now stronger than ever. The only person who could expose him was dead. Dear fellows, another tale was called The Conspiracy of the Seven. Let us analyze it. The lie was perfect. The impostor king was safe. But a perfect lie can be destroyed by one tiny bit of truth. And in the Persian court, one super-powerful noble named Audacious started thinking, wait a minute, something is very wrong here. Otanes was one of the most powerful men in Persia. His own daughter, Phaidimi, was now married to the new king. Otanes had known the real princes his whole life, and this new Bardiya was just off. The king refused to meet any of the old nobles and was super secretive. It just didn't make sense. Otanes decided to use his inside connection. He sent a secret message to his daughter, asking a simple question. "Is the guy you're with really Bardiya?" Phaidimi messaged back. She didn't know. She had never known the real Bardiya, and the new king kept all his wives separated. This made Otanes even more suspicious. He needed proof. Then he remembered some old palace gossip. Years ago, Cyrus the Great had punished a Median priest by cutting off his ears. He had a sick feeling he knew who that priest was. So he sent his daughter the most dangerous mission ever. He told her, "The next time you're with the king and he's asleep, you have to feel for his ears." This was a huge risk. If she got caught, they would both be killed. But Phaidimi, who was incredibly brave, agreed. The next time she was called to the king's bed, she waited for the most powerful man in the world to fall asleep. Then, with her heart racing, she slowly reached out her hand in the dark. She reaches out, feels through his hair, and there's nothing. Just smooth, scarred skin. The king had no ears! Now he had physical proof. Phaidimi sent the message to her dad. Otanes finally had his proof. He secretly went to two other powerful nobles, Assassinating and Darius, and told them everything. They agreed to help, and each brought one more person into the plan. Now there were 6 of them: Otanes, Assassinating, Darius, Intafrenes, Cambyses, and Hydarnes. 6 of the most powerful men in Persia, all in on a secret that could either save the empire or get them all executed. But they needed one more person, a young, ambitious noble from a lesser part of the royal family. His name was Darius. When they told him, he already had his own suspicions. But Darius wasn't about to sit around and wait. He was a man of action and told them they had to attack now. He warned them that every day they waited was another day the impostor could find them out. He was so persuasive that he basically became the leader of the group. And just like that, we have our 7 conspirators. Their mission: break into the king's fortress, kill the impostor, and take back the empire. Dear fellows, a whisper of treason, a storm of blades, a scream from Darius. It is a story that should not be missed to understand. The impostor Gaumata was hiding out in a fortress in Media, surrounded by his guards. The 7 conspirators traveled there, hiding their plan. Their plan was unbelievably simple. They were just going to walk up to the front gate, say they had an urgent message for the king, and hope their fame would get them inside. As they got to the gates, their wild gamble actually worked. The guards, recognizing the famous nobleman, just let them in. They walked through the fortress, trying to act calm, and got to the king's private rooms. But here, the royal guards stopped them, saying the king was with a woman. This was it. Any hesitation would get them killed. Darius just looks at his friends, pulls out his dagger, and yells, "This is what we came for!" The fight was instant and insane. The 7 nobles attacked the guards in a crazy storm of blades and shouting. They sliced their way through and busted into the king's rooms. Inside, they found Gaumata and his brother, who heard the noise. The 2 magi grabbed weapons and fought back like cornered animals. In the small, dark room, the conspirators fought the fake king. Darius tackles the impostor to the ground, pinning him. But it's so dark he can't risk stabbing him without hitting his friend. He just yells, "Just stab him, even if you hit me." Darius lunged forward and ran his sword through the impostor king. It was over. The 7 conspirators, bloody but winning, cut off the heads of Gamata and his brother as proof. They ran into the streets, holding up the heads and telling everyone about the massive deception. A huge wave of anger swept through the fortress, and the Persians turned on the Magi, killing tons of them. The con was over, but now they had a new problem. Who's the next king? The throne was empty. The 7 heroes met to decide the empire's fate. According to Herodotus, they had an amazing debate. Otanes, the guy who started it all, argued for something crazy: democracy. Megabyzus wanted an oligarchy, ruled by the rich. But it was Darius who took charge again. He argued that only one strong king could hold the giant empire together. And he convinced them. They still had to pick a king. Otanes, who really seemed to hate the idea of a single ruler, dropped out. So for the last 6, they came up with this crazy challenge. All 6 of them would get on their horses at sunrise, and the first person whose horse neighed after the sun came up would be the new king of the world. It was a weird test, leaving the fate of an empire to a horse. But Darius wasn't leaving this up to chance. He was going to cheat. That night, he got his servant, Audacious, who had an absolutely genius plan. Herodotus says Audacious either took Darius's horse to a mare it really liked, or he just rubbed his hand on the mare's private parts to get the scent. The next morning, as the sun rose, Audacious either walked the horse past the special spot or just held his scented hand up to the horse's nose. Instantly, Darius's horse let out a huge, loud neigh. And right at that moment, a bolt of lightning cracked across the clear sky. Everyone saw it as a sign from the gods. The other 5 nobles got off their horses, kneeled in front of Darius, and named him their king. And so, Darius became Darius the Great. He turned out to be an amazing king, stabilizing the empire, making it even bigger, and building the incredible city of Persepolis. His long reign was a golden age for Persia. It all started with a coup that was justified by the story of an impostor king. To celebrate his win, Darius had a giant carving made on a cliff at Behistun. The Behistun inscription tells the official story: that Cambyses killed his brother, that the priest Gaumata faked being him, and that Darius, the hero, got rid of the liar and saved the day. For centuries, everyone believed this was the truth. But here's where it gets even crazier. What if the entire story I just told you was a lie? What if the biggest scam wasn't the impostor king, but the story about the impostor king? Some modern historians now think the guy Darius killed might have been the real Bardiya all along. In this version, Darius, who was just some guy from a minor royal family, led a coup against the real king. He then made up the entire story about the impostor, with no ears as a giant piece of propaganda, so he could steal the throne himself. We will probably never know for sure. The voices of everyone else involved were silenced by daggers and time. All we have is the story the winner decided to tell us. So I'm going to leave you with this one question. Was Darius a hero who saved an empire from the biggest scam in history? Or was he the ultimate con man, a genius propagandist who framed his victim and pulled off a lie that has lasted for over 2,500 years? Respected fellows, I am Czar. These guys are literally about to risk everything. They were about to walk straight into the enemy's fortress with just their daggers and their courage. The final battle was coming. If you want to see how this insane story ends and see more crazy history videos like this, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing.